So Sonia, welcome to This is Ag. This is, believe it or not, my second year. We're starting in 2024. Will be the third round of This is Ag. So excited.
Yeah.
Are you excited to be here?
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
I'm really excited and honored.
How long have you been at United Ag?
9 years and a half already.
9.5 years.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
It has been.
Yeah. I think this was a couple months before I came into my role as the CEO. You joined United Ag,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
But before we get to all of that, let's introduce ourselves. And we do this all the time at United Ag, right? So when we have other vendors come in or anybody from the outside, usually we say, how would you describe or how would you introduce yourself, right? I mean, I can say, I'm the CEO of United Ag, and that's one title, right? President and CEO at United Ag. But is that
Right.
really what I do, right? So
Right.
there's a way I introduce myself.
Yeah.
So how would you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm a facilitator, a delegator. I monitor daily activities of my department. I assess situations and I address issues before they arise.
That's awesome. And you are our manager of member services.
Right.
We call our customer services department member services.
Right.
And you head that department. And in that role, you see yourself as a facilitator and helping.
Yes, correct.
Is that more from internal with your staff? Is that external? How do you define that role?
I think it's both. It's internal for my team. You know, I get to be there for them. I'm their resource when they have questions, when they have concerns, but also for external when we get those calls and they don't know what to do. So I become the facilitator to make sure that those things get handled as well externally.
And do you find just going through my experiences and when I have an
Mhm.
issue and I reach out to you, there is a need, right, in our industry for that role?
Right.
Because somebody, I mean, you go in to a provider's office, you don't know what's going on with you. You sometimes find out something that you don't understand and you don't know where to go next.
Right.
So you see your role as that person holding my hand
Yes.
and making sure I'll be okay.
Very
right?
much so.
That's your role.
Correct.
Does that, as you go through your day, does that get exhausting sometimes?
Exhausting, but in a good way, because there's some joy to it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to help people. And when you do that, it brings joy to me, at least, to know that I'm helping someone with whatever issue they're having. Does it get exhausting to go through that process?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's mental.
Yeah.
Mentally and physically,
Exactly.
right? I mean, yeah, both.
Because you don't just make one phone call. Sometimes
Right.
you got to make 20 phone calls.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, it's not just a 1 day situation. It could be 2 days. Sometimes it could be 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it does get, because, you know, you want those providers that you're calling or those offices that you're calling to be the same as you. You want them to, you know, help their patient as much as you want to help our member, but you don't always get that. So yeah, it's frustrating and exhausting sometimes.
That's true, because when I notice this, even not just today, but every time I talk to you, you're passionate about taking care of our members. And sometimes that's not reciprocated across the industry, right? And
Exactly.
that gets frustrating. And how
Very
do you
much.
deal with that?
Yeah.
Because people forget that there's a person at the end of everything that happens
Right.
in healthcare.
Yeah.
People forget that. It becomes a number or becomes
Exactly. Yeah.
a work. It's a job for them.
Exactly. And
Right.
I just feel like in the past few years, that quality of care, it's gone down a bit.
That's true.
What we used to do I used to work at the doctor's office, and
Mhm.
what I used to do for them, I'm doing it now today here at United Ag, where those offices are no longer doing that. You know, they're having the members call for benefits. They're telling the members, you know, go check if this requires authorization. That's something that, as in working for a doctor's office, that's your responsibility. But that doesn't happen today, not as much as it used to before. So
I wonder why that is. I wonder, is it a lack of empathy in our industry? I wonder why that happens.
Yeah.
But that's what, through United Ag, that's what we're trying to study, right? My role. So if I introduce myself, I usually start this podcast saying I'm the CEO and the president of United Ag. But what I see my role is to see if we change the conversation around healthcare, or if we bring empathy back into healthcare, do we create a sustainable business at United Ag? Right? Because if you do right by a human being, right? Is that just something like a fluff thing and does not have a business sense behind it?
Exactly.
Or can you create a sustainable business with that, right? And the same is true for our employer groups. How do you create this and make sure on their income statement, it's not a number that's so high that it's not sustainable for them? And at the same time, the end member has to be given quality care, good care, and all of that. So that's what we are trying to study through United Ag.
Exactly.
That's what I see you when you introduce yourself. That's your role, right? You're saying, if I hold that person's hand through the process, is that what I need to do? Is that what other people need to do? Or should I just treat that person like anybody else would as a number? Yeah. And where does that come in from? Is that how you grew up? Where does that whole, because as I'm talking to you, for you, that's not a job. You are taking care of people because it's good customer service skills. That's not what's going on in your mind. You're saying, if I'm in that person's shoes, how would I like to be treated? That's what is going on in your head. So that's a very different take. Not a lot of people can say that about their jobs, right? We all check mark and say, oh, do I have the customer service skills? Do I have this? And I need to do this. I need to smile. I need to put on a smile when I get on a call because they can see the smile. You do it because you were asked to do it. You do it because that comes from your heart. Why is that?
I grew up in the agriculture industry. I was raised by my grandmother. You know, she owned a farm and she did a lot of a man's job. And so I was out in the fields myself when I was a kid, and I was also feeding the field workers. So, you know, seeing that side of it, I know the struggles. I know how hard that work is. And I also know how hard it is for people that don't have the language, you know, that don't speak English. Coming to the United States, I had to become the translator for my mom. She cleaned houses. So I was her translator to schedule the appointments, reschedule, cancel, give quotes. And I was only in 3rd grade. So seeing that and being the translator, not just for my mom, but for my uncles and aunts, to see how much they struggled, I think that kind of led me to live my life helping others. That was just who I became. And it was a fulfilling feeling of helping.
Right. Being in that position that you can help others. Right.
And I think my biggest thing is, if I'm doing it for others, if today, I do it for somebody else's mother, for somebody else's grandparents, aunts, uncles, then I have this feeling in my heart that somebody else is doing it for mine. You know, it's really the golden rule. Treat others as you want them to treat you. So in my case, I treat others as I would want them to treat my family. So yeah, it's, I think that's where it comes from. And just being a good human being.
Right. Yeah. You do it for others. That's going to go through like a chain.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You do the other way around. You treat somebody like a number. Then that's going to be like, you're going to be treated like a number. And United Ag and our members are so fortunate to have somebody like you in this role, right? Because it goes beyond numbers. When you're helping someone, it's coming from the heart, and they know it, and they feel confident going through whatever issues they're going through because you and your team are next to them. When we are looking to see, right? I mean, Sonia cannot do it all, and we are looking at a department. I know each and every team member in your department will say exactly the same thing that you do. You just said, right? And if I say, describe what you do, I'm sure they will not say, I'm a customer service rep, I'm a member service rep, but they will say what you just said and how you introduce yourself. How do you do that? How do you build a team that lives and breathes this every day?
Yeah. I'm really proud of my team. They do an exceptional work, but it all starts in the hiring process. You're looking for those people that are empathetic, that are kind and patient, and you want to hear their stories. So when I hear them through the interview process as to why do you want to be in this role, why customer service, why do you want to help other people, and to hear their story because my parent's sick, or because my grandparent, passed away, or because my brother, my sister, those are the stories that I want to hear, because I know that those are the people that are going to help others. And of course, it comes with the experience and the knowledge. It's a win-win.
Right.
And so once we have them in here, I think we build them from the bottom up. We teach them what is United Ag. We give them a really good foundation of our benefits and what we do. And they go with it. And it's people that really want to help other people. This job is, you have to be passionate and you want to have that feeling of wanting to help, because if you don't have it,
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is so true. I think what we give, including me, the reason I get up in the morning, or the reason I find this fulfilling, is the sense of purpose that we have. And you're giving that to your team members.
Right.
And I really like what you just said. So when you're looking at hiring process, listening to what stories the people are telling you and what they have lived, right? Does that align with what we are trying to do?
Right.
That's
Exactly.
extremely important.
Yes.
And because if you come into United Ag and your focus is, how do I grow in my titles? Or how do I get the next title? How do I get the next raise? What about the bonuses? That's not going to work at United Ag.
Right.
But you will get the titles.
Right.
You will get that. But it's, what are you driven by?
Exactly.
Right? And
Exactly.
that's very important.
Yes.
And that's reflected in the way we provide service.
Yeah.
Because when you think customer service, right, everybody else does customer service.
Right.
And everybody else says, do it different than the others. But that's just kind of, you just say it and you do it. I'm sure a lot of other companies do an amazing job at it. But to have that feeling where you really actually care about people and want to take care of them, that's a very different feeling.
It is.
And we don't want to ever lose that.
It is. You become very attached to the people that you talk to on the other line.
Right.
Some which you never meet.
Right.
But when you hear their voice and they call you by your name and you know who they are and you already know that they have grandkids or they have kids and they start telling you their stories, you get attached to those people.
Right.
So it is that human connection that you make with them.
Right. I remember you recently when we were traveling together, you were telling me a story about somebody who called in. They were very unhappy. I think they're almost done, close to retirement or whatever in their jobs, and just kind of upset with a lot of stuff going on, and talked to you and you helped them through it, and called you back, right? And thanked you or something with that. And the way you made them feel was what was important to them.
Right.
But what they also did for you is when that person called you back and the way that person made you feel by giving you that feedback.
Yes.
That was what is fulfilling to you.
It was a very nice call. And I think it was just the way that how much I care for that person and me wanting to give the information, and the fact that he called me back to make sure that I got the information that I was asking for. He made my job a lot easier, but also made me feel that he cared.
Yep.
He wasn't going to leave me hanging.
Yep.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And when we look at what we do in the member services department or the customer service department, most of the time you don't know if this group has left United Ag. You don't know if this group is a large group. You don't know if it's a small group, right? We treat each and every person the same.
Yes.
And what about, let's say, a group has left United Ag, but they still continue to have benefits for that they still have claims and stuff that's kind of incurred from before.
Right.
Have you had any incidences where somebody felt, oh, we've left United Ag, I know they're not going to help me, right? Whatever.
Right.
So what do you mean I have to call United Ag to resolve this? But somebody from our member services, so you got on the call and the way that person was treated, that person was like floored. I'm like, I'm leaving them and they're treating me this way.
Exactly.
Any,
we actually have someone now that are no longer with United Ag, but they keep calling and we keep helping her. And I know it was tough love. It was one of those people that gave you tough love. But now that she's gone, she obviously feels it. And so we got the call. And when I talked to her, she says, I'm sad that I'm gone because I know that where I'm going, it's not going to be the same.
Right.
And she was calling because she still has some claim issues that she wanted to resolve. And we said, we'll take care of it. No problem. We'll make sure that this all gets resolved. And whether you're here with us or not, this is going to be handled. So she says, well, at least I still get to call you, at least for the next,
just talk.
next couple of weeks until this gets resolved, because she really didn't want to leave, but it wasn't her choice.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm sure she'll get good customer service. But like I said, it's the human part of it. And we get attached and we know that.
Yeah.
So, Sonia, usually when I talk about you and the way I introduce you, I say, our health plan has Sonia. What does yours have? Right? When I say that, how does that make you feel? Sometimes I wonder about that, because I say that and I'm like, I hope Sonia takes it the way I mean it. But does that put like pressure on you? Do you feel that as a good thing? How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
I've always been curious about that.
I don't like to bring a lot of attention to myself. So that always makes me, just uncomfortable. But it's something that I do, it's what I like to do. So I don't mind helping as many people as I can. And it's not just me. I have a huge team behind me that help me make calls. And, we're really a team. It's a team effort. Sometimes it requires 3 people to be working on one thing. I'll be making calls here. Somebody else will be making calls there. So it's really, I have a big team behind me supporting me and helping me. So it kind of makes me feel like I'm doing it all by myself, but it's not just me. It's, it's everybody. Maybe
it should be changed and saying, I know Sonia was a generic name.
Right.
I know you're Sonia, right? Yeah. But it's a generic name for anybody in member services, because we have everybody in the member services team is that role, right? It could be a Mary, it could be a Mari, it could be a Dira, it could be Sonia, whoever it is. Yeah. It's like Christina, right? Yeah. I mean, we could say our plan has Christina. What is yours, right? So it could be anybody in that role. Yeah. It's that what we have, what our idea of a Sonia is what we're replicating.
Exactly.
Right? That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And I think that's been one of my goals, is to do that, to have everyone in my team can do the same thing that I do and have the same passion and have the same results, because that's really what we're trying to build here.
I don't know how you guys do this, because I send texts when I need something, and it's after hours sometimes. It's Saturday, Sunday. I know quite a few people who have talked to me say they do the same. And each and every one I talk to, they say the response time is within less than 10, 15 minutes, right? Response time, and the issue gets resolved. Yeah. So how do you do it? How do you and your team do this? Because that's a lot of people who have your cell phone number. That's a lot of people texting you. Right. And you have your usual everyday job to do. Right. But this gets done. Yeah. How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, again, it's a big team that we have, and we prioritize. We make sure that everything gets handled within a day's response as much as we can. There's certain things that they just cannot be done in one day, but majority of them, we get on it. There's certain things that we know that need urgency when it comes to medications, when it comes to an appointment or a procedure being scheduled. Somebody that was just diagnosed with something, it's urgent for them. You don't want someone that was just diagnosed with something or were just giving some bad news to have to wait a whole day to get a response from us. So we try to handle those things as soon as possible, because we know how stressful that can be for someone. So having everyone just pitch in and, we say, okay, this is priority. Let's get this done. And like I said, sometimes it takes more than one person to do that.
Yeah. That's awesome. I don't know how you guys, you explained it, but it's really, really good. And our members are really fortunate to do that. And like I always say, my son turning 26, he's feeling bad about it because he loses Sonia and the team, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the concern, because every health plan, everybody needs to do that. That's the interesting part, is this should happen across the board. What we do at United Ag, it shouldn't be something unique, right? We shouldn't be saying, what are we saying? We're not saying anything new. We're saying be human, care about people, and just treat someone like you would want to be treated, right?
Exactly.
So this is when somebody listens to that, they'll say, oh, that's easy. We all do that, right? It's not a big deal. But wonder why that doesn't happen. It's a interesting, just treat somebody else like a human being. That's all you need to do. Your employees, your members, your brokers, your vendors, everybody, right? Just, I don't know why we don't do that in business.
I think that's one of the unique things about United Ag is that we just don't say it. And it's funny because when we go through the interview process, we stress that a lot. We're very member centric. We like to hold our members' hand. We like to, treat them this way and we do this. And they're nodding their head. Okay. But when they start working, we get those statements of, oh, you really are member centric. Oh, you really do go that extra mile, because we really do. It's not just a saying. We do it.
Right. So and it's funny, even employees, right? Sometimes they start off at United Ag and they say, oh, yeah, of course, culture. Yes, exactly. We know the culture. We know this, we know that. And then like, oh, what? This is really different.
Yes, exactly. This is, yes. We get that a lot.
Yep. So when somebody says member centric or customer service, that number that keeps kind of you throw around that. So how would you define it? How do you, if I'm a new employee at United Ag or you're interviewing me and I said, Sonia, what do you mean by member centricity, centricness? What is your definition of that?
It's treating the member as you would want to be treated, is being compassionate, understanding, educating the members, teaching them how to use their plan. It's not just about, let me do it for you. And, I'm here. So whenever you need me, let me, it's also about educating because we want to give our members the tools that they need and providing them with, all the information that they need so that they can be informed. So to me, that would define member centricity. Also, we're not just, I don't want to give the impression that we give out free service.
Yep. Good point.
Because it's really not about that.
We go through the compliance, we follow the rules, we do everything.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes people get confused with that. And even when a new employee comes in and you're explaining that, and they are, when we are in the claims committee and we're making a decision about something, or we're doing some like decisions around what we do at United Ag.
Exactly.
People think that's what it is. People think we are saying, here, let me open my door, come take whatever you want. But that's not what that member centricity is, right? We still do it within the compliance.
Yes.
We still do it where we follow the rules, we follow the financial business rules, we follow the legal rules, we follow all of that.
Exactly.
But we do it within that.
And sometimes, there's been times where it just doesn't work out. Unfortunately, it happens, but we still care. We still try to help out. We still try to find resources, even if it's not within United Ag. We still go that extra mile to help the person see what else is out there for them. But, I don't want to say that 100% of the time it's always a success.
Exactly.
It's not.
It's sometimes the pre-authorizations of stuff that happens, right? I mean, there's a process to it. We don't say, okay, here, let's sign off on it. But then how do you do it with compassion?
Right.
Exactly. How do you, because it's not like people pay their deductibles. Sometimes it's money, right? 80% or 20% of what they are owed is a big number for someone. But how do you tell them that that's what is owed? With compassion. That's the difference. So Sonia, you started 9.5 years ago. I started around the same time. At that point, we were $80 million company. Today, we are around 250. That's almost tripled in size. Have you noticed in all these years as we are growing, have we stayed true to who we are from your role and what you do?
Yes. We're not your normal company of being in a call center. Your calls have to be below 3 minutes, or, you have to answer 100 or 200 calls in a day. We don't put a quota that way. And what we do is we build relationships with members. And I think that's a culture that you brought in. We cared. And the couple of months or the few months that I was here before you took over, it was a whole different culture. The feeling was different. The people were different. And when you took that role, that change that I talk about it all the time, but that change to me was a big difference. It made a difference to me whether I wanted to stay with United Ag or not.
Can you tell what that was?
Yeah. We were in the conference room and you said the first thing that you wanted to do as a CEO, you were going to remove the signs in the parking lot that have CEO, legal counsel, and things like that. So there was no parking spaces.
Right.
So we had to struggle to find a parking space and some of those were empty. Yeah. And when you took over, you said that's the first thing. Why? Because we were all a team.
Yeah.
We were going to work as a team. And so throughout these years, it's been the same. We are a big team. I know it sounds cliche.
It's a cliche.
Yeah. When they say we're a family.
Yep. But we truly a family.
But we really are.
Yeah.
We've known each other and we collaborate with each other and we go through projects together and we agree to disagree and we can speak our minds and say why this is not going to work, why this should be different. And I think that has brought us together as a team. And so any department that you talk to collaborates with everyone.
Right. So we don't have any silo. We say Team United Ag is one, right? We don't have different departments.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so even when as you were explaining that, right, we've grown, but I actually do not even see it in those terms because we are who we were 10 years ago, right? I mean, it's the same company and we want to stay true to that, including from employees, including from members. We should never, ever get into our heads that we have tripled in size or we are this big ag association for agriculture in California now expanding outside because that will kill it all, right? I mean, that's not our intent. We did not set out to be $250 million or $300 million or whatever that would be in the future. We did not set out for that.
Yeah.
What we set out to do, what we started to do or walk towards was just caring about people and saying, if I treat someone in a very human way, does that have a business sense? And that could be growing, that could be a financially sustainable organization, any of that, right?
Exactly.
So that's our goal is that. Our goal is nothing else but taking care of people.
Exactly.
And this happens, right?
I agree.
I mean, it's just a simple, when you think, even that's a cliche.
Yeah.
When somebody says, what happened? How did you guys triple in size? What are the tricks or what are the things that we can learn?
Right.
Just take care of people.
Yeah.
So it seems very cliche.
Exactly. Yes, it's true. Yeah. And I think the other thing that you've always put in our minds is we're not about titles at United Ag.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes when you have me introduce myself, I don't say I'm the manager.
Right.
I work in the member service department. This is what we do. And sometimes I've seen that you go back and you say, okay, Sonia is, the manager of the department.
Yeah.
But here at United Ag, it's just a big team working together towards one common goal.
Yeah. We hold that very sacred. Yes. We don't want to mess it up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a learning everyday thing as you kind of learn and grow from it because anytime you notice, right, things can go in a different direction very quickly. So we have to self-correct and make sure we're headed in the right direction. True. So what we do from an internal culture, we do that from external, from our members and stuff like that.
Yes.
Is there anything, Sonia, from our stories or anything else that you want to share?
Well, there's a lot of stories, but, I think the stories that I have that touch my heart, they're from people that I've seen them from the beginning of when they get diagnosed, when they start struggling with whatever it is that they're going through, to see how it affects their families, to see how, maybe they gotten better, maybe they gotten worse. And you follow them through that whole process to hearing where some made it and they're good, where others didn't make it and have passed. And so those stories can be sad. There is one story in particular that I always think about. I never met her, but she recently passed, and I never spoke to her. Never once did I talk to her directly. But the love that her husband showed for her, the attention, the concern that he had for her, how he was always by her side and he made sure that she was taken care of. No matter what happened, he would always call me and say, we have this problem, or can we make sure that this gets done, or can we look into this? And being on top of it, it was, to me, it was just the type of person that I would say, hey, one day that's who I want by my side, right? Someone that's going to take care of me like that, because she was very loved. And that's just from talking to her husband. So,
yeah.
I wish I could have given you a much happier story, but
no, but that's inspiring, and I mean that touches your heart.
Yeah.
And I see you getting emotional about it, because those are, unfortunately, in our industry, you start building those relationships with,
Right.
like you said, and you never know which direction it goes.
Exactly.
But just going through that process, it still warms your soul, right?
Yeah.
I mean, either way,
It does.
it's like, oh.
Yeah. And so those are stories that touches you that you just don't know how else to help them. I don't know. I don't have the words to, what do I say? I don't want to get too personal.
Right.
I don't want to get too impersonal. So you have to be in the middle. You still have to be professional, even though you're feeling your feelings, but you still have to maintain some type of professionalism.
As a role of a customer service rep or member services, and what we do in that role,
right,
that's emotionally exhausting at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Because when you empathize with someone, it actually takes a toll on you too, because you're putting yourself in those shoes.
Yeah.
So what do you do for yourself to recharge every day?
Well, I recently started going to the gym. I find that has helped me a lot. But my kids recharge me. It's my home. I'm not much of a party person. What recharges me is being around my family, my kids, watching a really good movie, maybe, crying a little. I like to eat, and most recently taking up the gym. So that helps me with my stress and just feeling good. So it makes me feel better. But I think that the happy stories you kind of forget,
right?
Because they were successful stories,
right?
Because they, you fixed them, you were happy, you moved on. But the sad stories are the ones that stay in your heart, the ones that you feel, the ones that you wish you could have done more, the ones that you take with you. And so those are,
Right. And as we are recording this is almost the end of 2023. So this episode is going to go live 2024. And it's a good reminder for all of us, right? Like you just said, the sad stories stay, but to help someone in that situation, they stay with us for a reason, right? And they've touched us somewhere, and we've grown through that.
Right.
And we've helped someone. Yeah. And what a fulfilling way to end our day at the end of the day with that.
You learn from those stories. You learn from those experiences. Right. And at the end of the day, if you just helped one person, like the story of the starfish, if you just help one person, that is more than enough. And I remember my early years with United Ag, that was the feeling I had when I would go home. It was a feeling of fulfillment. Like I accomplished something. I was proud of that. I was proud that I helped so-and-so, even if it was something very small, but to them was something big, I would go home feeling happy, content, which is something that I didn't find in my previous jobs. I didn't find that fulfillment. And it was here where I realized I never had that. I never felt that before. And I knew, okay, United Ag is my place. Yeah. So
thank you, Sonia. This has been awesome. And more than anything, thank you for caring about people, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that's the most important thing that we can do for someone. And so thank you for being who you are. Thank you for having a team that reflects who you are, and building that into our culture, because we need more people like you who care. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirti, for having me.